Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sarah and Adam Show. How are you today, Sarah?
I'm good. How are you?
Also, okay.
I didn't say okay.
But I'm also okay. Someone else out there is okay, and I am also okay, just like them.
All right. I'm fine. Maybe.
Don't just okay.
I'll,
All right, so what what news do we have today, Sarah, before we
hmm.
jump into the madness? Oh, and I guess I should preface this by saying we're not talking about Bad Batch today at all. It's completely two episodes. Sarah missed. Well, we both missed. She was sick. She's
Hmm.
still a little sick, but we're gonna. She's gonna soldier on. Apparently. I hope. Thank you for soldiering on.
I'm gonna try to.
Well, we missed last week, so we have two episodes of The Last of Us to talk about, and then we're gonna wait for probably even a couple more weeks to talk about Bad Batch.
Yeah, I feel like we can just pile them all together.
Yeah, I mean it's just weird to talk about like a 24-minute.
Hmm.
It's almost just like a clip, like an extended trailer. Especially when some of them are filler, you're like,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, there's a good chunk of the episodes that usually don't seem to have like a whole ton of, I don't know, moving the plot forward, so to speak. Like it is
mhm.
fillery. So that's which is fine.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So we have two episodes, 2 and 3.
2 and 3 of The Last of Us.
Yes.
Yes. Which, like, I actually completely forgot. I mean, not that I forgot that we didn't record, but I just assumed that you and I had talked about episode 2 already, and we haven't at all. So, yay.
Yay. I know. Hopefully I remember it.
I'm sure you will. Um, but in news, so speaking of The Last of Us, they did get renewed last week for season 2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was interesting because a few people were like, that, and everyone who plays the game knows what that means. And I was like,
Correct. Excuse
okay,
me.
so tell me what it means then.
Um, so it sounds like, and I think this is what people are speculating, but that season 1 would follow the first game, and then season 2 would follow the second. Which I did not play the second one, but I know what happens in it in terms of one of the character storylines. Um, so
Hmm.
it might not be very good in the sense of not. I don't mean not good as like it would be a bad adaptation. I just mean it might not be a happy thing, happy feeling.
Okay.
I don't want to spoil it for you.
That's fine. Season 2, does it follow the same character? I mean, I guess there's potential spoiler
Um, from
there
what
as well.
from what I know, what I've had spoiled to me about the second game is there are a couple characters that are the same, and then there is another character that's introduced that is like a main character that's new. That's a new
Hmm.
introduction. Um, so yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Other news though,
Mm-hmm.
before we jump into The Last of Us, non the madness of clickers and um
Yeah.
preppers. Hmm.
Runners.
Oh, just the weirdos that the guy, the person who like
Oh,
stayed behind from the village, that's all.
yeah. The
Um
survivalists.
oh yeah, that's what he called himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So news, yeah, so this has been renewed for another season.
Mm-hmm.
Not too surprising. It
Mm-hmm.
seems to be getting crazy high ratings actually.
And it's actually getting more and more viewers every week. So the viewership numbers are going up even more with each episode.
Well, it's defying what I would traditionally have assumed this type of show was going to be.
Right, because I think most people are like, oh great, another zombie show.
Right, like a Walking Dead clone with like
Hmm.
zombies with weirder faces. Great,
Right.
cool.
Which
Yeah, this is different.
good. I'm glad you think so because I've been like a lot of people have been like, oh, it's another zombie show. I'm like, it's not a zombie show. It is, but it's not.
Right. So otherwise,
Yeah.
beyond that, is there anything else that we
Yes.
have? Any other show things? Wheel of
Uh
Time has a start date, right?
yeah, I've also won the lottery.
And we never heard from her again.
um so we know so we're in Bad Batch right now. We know Mandalorian comes out March 1st. And then after Mandalorian, they announced that the next show for Star Wars, which conveniently will start on May 4th, is the second season of Visions.
Visions?
Visions.
Really?
Which apparently did you finish the first season of Visions?
No.
Okay,
I,
yeah.
I I gave it an honest try.
Me
I
too.
think I got through like 4 episodes, and I was just like, this isn't can. If it was canon, I think I would have stuck through it probably. But it was just like, I'm not saying that the art wasn't good. I'm not saying that the stories weren't on some level interesting. They weren't really to me though, and the art was not interesting to me. It was too different. I don't know. I went into it. I was like, all right, I don't normally do anime, but it like, I'm sure there's people I respect and people I like who really love anime,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe this will be an opportunity for me to crack into that, and maybe this will lead me into me really getting into it. Who knows? Like, I was open to it,
Mm-hmm.
and I it was so not interesting to me. I'm sorry, it wasn't, and I tried.
It didn't hold my attention either. I did try. I think I got 2 or 3 episodes in, and I was like, all right, this isn't for me, sadly.
Yeah. Well, like there were some funny elements. Like, there was like the rock band with there was like a Hut who was just, like the lead singer. I mean, there was some interesting stuff. Interesting-ish. It was just I mean, I also think that maybe I could have gotten more into it if it told like one cohesive storyline throughout, but it was all just like this random disparate
Yeah.
weirdness of like, oh, here's like a rock band in Star Wars with a Hutt's lead singer, and then the next one is just like some weird guy with a totally different art style and everything to it, and he's just wandering around with like some weird R2D2 version with like that's been made Japanese
Mm-hmm.
esque ish. I don't mean to be offensive. That is just it was just it was animated.
Animated. It was given a different style.
Yeah, and then there was like this story of like some twin force users who killed each other,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, this is pretty weird. I don't care.
Fair enough. Well, that's
Um,
what you get from May the 4th.
so you're saying I don't get anything? 'Cause I don't even think I'm gonna try this. I don't. I think I will just ignore it completely. Actually,
Yeah, I'm curious if
unless
that will be the only thing that comes out May 4th or not.
unless I hear something else. Like if everyone's like, "Oh no, dude, you've really got to look at this. This is actually pretty cool."
Mm-hmm.
I hope not, though. I don't want to do it. My
So,
mind is it's
spoil.
closed. It's closed my mind.
So, spoiler: we will not be reviewing it.
I have spoken.
Fair, fair enough. Yeah, I think that's it though. There's really not a ton.
That's fair. We should watch The Witcher sometime.
Yeah, I saw that. That you guys were talking about it today on Discord. So,
Yeah, I've been wanting to. That'd be right down our alley for
and
the
didn't
show.
they didn't they replace the actor in it for the upcoming season or something? Like I don't think.
Yeah, a lot of people were mad about that, though. Actually,
Oh.
it's the same guy who played Superman.
Hmm.
Actually, and I don't know the whole story, but it was like he quit the Witcher one because he kind of like had to choose which one. He's like, well, you have to choose Superman.
Right. And then now
But
they're rebooting,
yeah,
so he's not Superman either.
yeah, I really like the guy actually. At least on, I don't know. I'm not a guy who follows celebrities. It's just like, why do I need to follow these? I don't know. They're good at something. It's like, are they as good at their craft or their job as I am at mine? I
Right.
mean, maybe they are, but do they deserve those millions of dollars and to be all whatever? I don't need to. I'm sounding all bitter, maybe, but it's just like disinteresting to me. Like just because they have a lot of money makes them interesting. It doesn't. It just makes them. I don't know. Be so. I'm not a celebrity guy, but this guy's interesting. And now I'm totally spacing on his name. See, I don't even care to
Um,
that level.
isn't it Henry?
Cavill,
That's the
yeah.
one. Yeah, that sounds right.
Um, so the thing I like about him though is, he's super into nerd stuff. Like he was really excited about playing Gerald,
Hmm.
Gerard, whatever his name is, in of Rivia in the The Witcher.
Okay.
Um, which I've read the books for. Actually, I read a bunch of the books for it, and then in anticipation of watching the show, and then I didn't. But he's super into the lore of that. But then I found out he's really into Warhammer 40K, which is a game I used to play. Like,
Oh, really?
I was super into it. Yeah, yeah. Like, it's like a tabletop miniatures game, very, very nerdy. I used to play it competitively though. Like I had a sponsor even at one point, and it was, I was ranked as like number 3 in the world for a while, and all this stuff. I was good at it. And then my kids came along, and I was spending way too much time away from home to be able to play it, and I just had to give it up. Very, very sad. But he was being interviewed though, like he was on a talk show talking about the game, and they were like making fun of him. He's like, "No, man, like you're just being ignorant." Like it was just like he fought him, and then the Superman kid, what's his name? What's his actor name?
Henry Cavill?
No,
Oh.
I said Superman. I meant Spider-Man. Sorry.
Oh, Tom Holland.
Yeah, he was on the set. And he's like, you should invite me over to play Warhammer with you. That sounds cool." And the host was all like flustered. He was like, because they like kind of ganged up on him, and they were like, you're being so childish and stupid. It's like making fun of nerd stuff. It
Hmm.
was I was like, the nerds won one today. This is cool.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was just a fun little, I mean, who knows if they ended up playing or whatever. But now I hear that they're actually making a 40K movie, and
Mm.
he's gonna star in it, so,
Oh, okay.
or maybe it's a show. I don't remember. There's some Warhammer 40K project, because hey, he needs something now that he's out of
Yeah.
his 2 major nerd roles. So
Yeah, no kidding. Frig.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so maybe we will watch that.
maybe we will. We might not.
It could go instead of Visions.
I would watch most things beside of Visions.
um, but yeah, okay. I think that's actually it, though.
Okay, so The Last of Us then.
Yeah, we got 2 episodes. So, um, episode 2 and episode 3, and I don't remember the title of episode 2, but we should
All right,
probably
I'm
start
looking
there.
here. Episode 2 is called Infected,
Of course, it
and
is.
the synopsis on Google, because I don't have HBO Plus on my computer right now. But the synopsis here says Joel, Tress, and Ellie traverse through an abandoned and flooded Boston hotel on their way to drop Ellie off with a group of fireflies.
Right.
Um, so
Hmm.
yeah, this was, I mean, this was going to be the big test, right? Like, I feel like the first episode was kind of divided in a way. Like the first half of the show was very, it was very stereotypical in a lot of ways, or just at least typical of zombie apocalypse
Hmm.
beginners. It's like everything's fine. slowly devolves until it escalates into just madness and chaos, and everyone has to go their own way
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. But then it's 20 years later, and the show takes a totally different tone.
Yeah. It's just surviving in this new world.
Well, yeah, and it's like there's actually civilization, and maybe it's fascist, maybe it isn't. You don't really see all the stuff, but it's oppressive. The poor girl at the start gets you know, or she, they're like, oh, it'll be okay. We'll get you some toys. Kill, like just stab her with the
Yeah.
needle, and it's sad, but it's very dystopian kind of, but so now the question is what's the show gonna look like now? Is it gonna be more zombie,
Mm-hmm.
traditional zombie slayer madness, or is it gonna be something different?
Right. Um, and that's like kind of the thing that I liked about the idea of them adapting it to a TV show, because when you play the game, it's not like you're walking this fine line. Walking a fine line is a weird way of phrasing it, but it's almost like you're in two worlds in a way, because you have like this zombie infected side of it that is a danger to you, but also civilization is a danger to you. So, like, which, I mean, not to hop around in episodes, but you see that in episode 3 where they're talking about, you have like Bill and Frank and, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get their names mixed up. Bill, the survivalist guy,
Hmm.
he's setting everything up, and then they're talking about how like raiders are gonna come. They're gonna knock down the
Hmm.
fence. They're gonna so like regular people are going that aren't infected are going to come and raid you. Like civilization is a danger to you as well.
Right. Well, I mean, you got a glimpse of that in the first episode of they're like, well, there's worse things than infected out there.
Yeah.
um And so I thought it was interesting in episode 2 because in a way they have to address, okay, yes, there's zombies out here. This is what the zombie plague kind of looks like.
Mm-hmm.
They give us a lot of different scenarios where it's like you just step on one little piece of fungus somewhere and
Yeah.
everywhere, like it summons a bunch of zombies. Like it's pretty terrifying, but there's a bunch of different things like that. And I feel like they, in a way, episode 2 was a way to kind of just like, all right, so there's zombies, there'll probably be a factor, but like in episode 1 they were like, well, there's more sting than infected out there. There are raiders, there are these,
Mm-hmm.
there are all these different types of degenerate, awful, humans who aren't affected. And I feel like to set the stage, the greater stage of the world, they have to really address, okay, here's the underlying stress of the whole system. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is why we can't have nice things,
Right.
and this is what is making everyone go rogue, and it's making it like, well, if there are raiders out there, we can't police them because we can't send out patrols because they'll just get killed by infected. Like it's not a worthwhile fight.
Yeah, exactly. So raiders will continue to raid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so in The Walking Dead, the zombies die super easy.
Mm-hmm.
They get headshot or they get stabbed in the face or whatever, in the brain,
Yeah.
and they drop. In this, like the clickers did not die
Right.
easily. Like it took a lot of,
Right.
it seemed like they were almost armored or something, and I wondered
Mm-hmm.
if they were this tough to kill in the game.
They are harder to kill in the game. So in the game, um, you tend to use like a shiv to kill them, um,
Like, you don't
because
have guns.
you do, but you usually need to use a shiv to get through their skin. So in the game, and I think we're gonna see
Hmm.
this in the series as well. And I don't think this is necessarily a spoiler. So
Hmm.
um, you have so and you've seen this already. So you have what's called runners, which is people who are freshly infected, and then they just run at you and try to attack you, right? And then you have clickers, which is like the next stage. And then I can't remember all of the exact order, but then you get like there's ones called bloaters. So like it just keeps kind of progressing based off of how infected you are and how long you've been infected. So the longer you've been infected, the more the fungus or the virus in the game has taken over your brain. And
Hmm.
it's funny that you say the word armor because they get harder to kill the longer they've been infected because it's like their skin has become armorized, or armorized isn't a word, but it's like it's
It
become
is
armored.
now.
It is now. So they get harder and harder to kill as you kind of like go up the ladder, so to speak. So yes, you were absolutely right to say that they seemed harder to kill because they are.
Okay. Oh yeah, it was pretty a few pretty tense moments there.
Yes, yes, it is. I I think the clickers were probably the scariest bit for me in terms of the gameplay, only because it was just so it's so eerie to hear how they do like their echolocation in the game, and it just makes it even creepier while you're playing. And like, anyway, which by the way, fun fact, they actually had the same voice actors that were doing the sounds for them in the game did the sounds in the show in this
That's
episode
fun.
too. Yeah, so it sounded, I was watching it, I'm like, this sounds exactly like out of the game, and that is why.
Okay, yeah. So I guess I asked you this. You and I did not see the same like production. I mean, we saw the same show when we watched Dragon Show.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't get the end of the episode end thing, like where they talk about like their decision making process for it
Right. Okay. Yeah.
and stuff. I was curious to know, did they do you have that now on this one? Like, do you get to hear the interviews with the
No.
people, like the producers and stuff?
No. I'm gonna try and look for it for this week's episode because I'm curious if it's somewhere, like if I can like PVR it or something on a different channel that it airs on or something, but it doesn't show up like on my app. It doesn't just load up afterwards or anything, and I can't find it. So unless I'm looking in the wrong spot, which is entirely possible.
I mean, it's yeah, it's just like a continuous. It's just like they just tack it onto the episode for me at least. It's like
Oh,
they give like a small preview for the next episode, and then it just goes like they show the credits, and
yeah.
then you go through the credits, and it shows the next week. This is like a little snapshot of what's going to happen, and
Mm-hmm.
then it gives like a little 5 minutes or less. Just
Yeah, I do not get that.
hmm.
Sad.
It is sad. It's a fun way to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would love to watch those little snippets.
Yeah. Yeah, I like and they talked about the clickers though. They're like, we knew we had to get the clickers right. We had to get their
Yes.
sound right and all this stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what when you were talking about that, that was what I was thinking. Okay, so story wise,
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't know. It's they're not being too super nice to the girl, which I thought was kind of funny
Yeah. I mean,
in a sad way.
it's pretty it's funny in the sense that like I think that they know that she's important, but they also know that like when it's been 20 years and you're just surviving in this chaos basically, like how many people can you trust?
Right.
So, especially
Can't
when you've
can't trust no
never
damn buddy.
and like you've never come across a person who has been bitten and lived without becoming infected.
Right.
So, yeah, it is pretty entertaining. It is decently spot on to the game as well. Like they are going through whatever area they're in and going through this like swamp filled, water filled area. And she can't swim in the game either, by the way.
Okay.
So you actually have to like you have to get creative and like ferry her across.
Right on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So, let me take a real quick break from just the storyline, and then, so they're in Boston, right? Or they're
Yes.
outskirts of
I was,
Boston or
mm-hmm.
whatever. Um, but he's from Austin. Have you ever seen the movie Road Trip?
I think so.
So, I mean,
Maybe.
I don't need to just give all the whole recap or whatever, but so like part of it has to like there's an element to that movie that has to do with confusion over Boston versus Austin.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Like someone goes to Austin when
Mm-hmm.
they should have gone to Boston. In like they intended to go to Boston, but there was like a miscommunication, and the guy's like, "Yeah, Austin, Massachusetts," and she's like, "Ah," she's so mad because she's like, "You sent me to the wrong place."
Uh-huh.
Uh,
I
but
could see
I
that.
the move that movie has almost no parallel to this
Mm-hmm.
to this show, but I just always think of that when I see like he's in Boston, and he started in Austin, and I know that they rhyme, and I'm not it's that doesn't really matter to me. I just keep thinking of that for some reason, and it needed to be expressed, so
That's fair.
yeah,
uh, yeah. I mean, I don't blame you.
just makes me laugh. It's probably in the movie or in the show anyways, so
Mhm.
or the game, I mean.
Yeah, I can't remember if it take. I I'm assuming it takes place in Boston. I can't remember the exact location. It's in the States.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Okay, so they're traversing this place, and the
Yes.
I thought it was it's just real creepy. Like everyone just lays down until they're needed. Kind of like all the zombies are just like
Yeah.
laying there, just kind of and you could kind of see like a writhing mass. But it took me a while. Like they had saw the vision of all the zombies from like a balcony, and I
Hmm.
didn't even know what I was looking at until they're like, "Oh yeah, like that's them." And, you could see all of them, and it's like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah, it's like a hive mind kind of thing that they've got going on.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of cool. It makes them more threatening, certainly.
Hmm. Oh, absolutely. It's just super creepy.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah. So, um, what I do really enjoy, I really enjoyed the opening of this episode where it showed like when right before the outbreak started in, I think it was in the Philippines. It was in.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm.
Uh, I might be wrong on that location, but
Indonesia.
Indonesia. Thank you. Right,
Yeah,
because it was Jakarta where they were talking
right.
about in episode
Mm-hmm.
one. Um, but I really like that because you're getting some of the background, like more background to how things start. And then it also ties into the episodes. Like you're able to, because Ellie's asking questions because obviously Joel was around when it all started, so he knows exactly how
Mm-hmm.
things or how he saw things go down
Right.
and is able to relay that information to her. So it's a nice little touch.
Yeah, I like getting a little bit more context.
Hmm.
I thought it was interesting too. I thought they tied it in well, where they were like, they were talking about the it starts in Indonesia, and the girl's like, well, start bombing the cities. It's the only way you're gonna
Yeah.
be able to contain this thing at all. And then they get to the city that they're the outskirts or whatever, and he's like, and this is where they bombed it, you
Yeah.
know like that just became the policy of like, hey, we're bombing our cities, you guys might want to do the same. It's like, okay, hey, Indonesia is bombing their cities, they're gonna you guys want
Right?
to do the same thing, like let's all bomb our cities together, it'll be good.
Ugh.
Good bonding experience.
But yeah, it's true though. Like they all just kind of did the same thing to try and slow it down. But I like that they're showing you that, and then you get that background. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then it just like carries over. And it was really interesting. I didn't catch on to this. I saw it. Someone had pointed it out online, and I thought it was really interesting because you have her in Indonesia talking about like it started at a flour mill or factory or whatever,
Hmm.
um, and then Joel is saying to Ellie that it probably got into the food, like it was in pancake mix, cereal, bread, like whatever, and it's food that goes all around the world, and
Right, which
then
is in episode 3.
right,
Hmm.
and but also in episode 1 for Joel's birthday, Sarah, his daughter, was gonna
Yep.
make pancakes, right? And
Hmm.
then he didn't have any pancake mix, so she ended up making like eggs or
Yeah.
whatever. So it's like this whole thing where it just like is like
They
this,
could have been infected.
yeah. And then they just chose like they
Hmm.
just didn't have any product that day that would have had it in it anyway. But it's a nice little string that's being woven through.
Yeah, I like that too. The continuity of it was yeah, I noticed that exact same thing actually with the pancakes. I was like, "Oh man,
Yeah,
like they could have been infected, but
but they were not.
and maybe they would have been infected too by making those cookies, except they were raisin cookies, so they were apparently gross."
Right. Well, and you also see when they're leaving the house that morning, the neighbors are out front having biscuits.
Oh yeah, you love biscuits. Oh, I'm on Atkins. Can't
Yeah.
have any biscuits. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah,
So
good point.
it's like these little things that I think they're doing really well. But
Yeah.
um anyway, so yeah, this episode though is pretty spot on. What did you think about Tess? Because
Yeah.
this was changed. And
Oh, you'll have to tell me how it changed.
yeah.
I was sad because you almost spoiled it in a way because you were like, I remember the Firefly leader more than I remember Tess. And I was like, okay, so Tess isn't with us for too long. Otherwise, if she was in the game the whole time, you'd remember her a lot more.
For sure. Absolutely.
So that was disappointing. What happened? So she makes out with the zombie and dies.
Right.
She doesn't make out, but
Right.
it's kind of the same.
That which was
What?
real creepy. So
Super creepy, yeah.
in the game you're actually being followed by Fedra, like the government, and it's Fedra officers that kill her. She stays behind because she's infected. But it's Fedra officers that kill
Okay.
her, not other infected zombies, etc.
I mean, she killed herself basically.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a pretty interesting choice to do in terms of having like the clicker interaction with her there, because I was just like, this is aggressive, aggressively gross.
Right. Yeah, I was like he's kissing her like I mean, obviously not. It was like it made me think that maybe it was like trying to just recognize that she had the virus, but it's trying to
Yeah.
just make sure that they spread it more or something, you know? Like the infected, my guess is that the infected aren't like having sex and stuff, right? Like they're not like
I would
trying to
assume
procreate.
not. Yeah, I would assume not. So they did the creators did a interview about it, and they were saying what they wanted to do was show it in a non, like what happens if you aren't fighting back against them, because you see them be violent because you're fighting against them and you're trying to survive, and then they're violent with you, and etc. So what happens in Tessa's scenario where you're not violent, you just kind of wait for it to happen? Are they not violent? And then also, did
Mhm.
he just know, like you said, like did he just recognize that she was already infected and just wanted to spread it faster to her?
Right.
So but it was still disturbing. I was like, this is creepy.
Well, yeah, it was a little. I mean, it wasn't rapey, but it was still. I don't know. She didn't have a choice.
I
Yeah.
actually was like getting concerned that she was not going to be able to light, like get the lighter to light.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, well, yeah. It was like I was like, you just do it. Just pull the trigger. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it was concerning for sure.
So it was, but I mean, it would also make sense if they did recognize that she was infected because all of them ran past her.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I thought that since she had the virus, that they just left her alone.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of like Walking Dead scenes where they're able to kind of camouflage themselves and
Right.
make trick the zombies into thinking that they're walkers as well.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. So, but I mean, so just like a slight change in terms of who killed her or how she died exactly. But
yeah, well, like Fedra has not really entered into the show yet that much.
no.
A little bit in the first episode, but not that much. So Um, yeah, I was sad to see her go though. I liked her, frankly.
Hmm.
Yeah, obviously she was the one who was expendable, but
Sadly.
yeah. Otherwise, yeah, this episode was I don't know. I thought I thought the third episode actually made episode two a little more interesting, just because you don't have any sense of how long Tess has been with Joel.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point actually.
Like just because they're together now, like they're both kind of hardened, tough people. Like they might have been together for like a year or something. I mean, probably more than that
Hmm.
because they're pretty familiar with each other. But and the way they do things and everything seems like they have it down as a pattern. But it's not for sure. You don't really know. And yeah, the fact that they've been together at least 13 years, according to episode three,
Right.
and probably more, makes the depth of her sacrifice and loss just so much more tragic in a way.
Yeah, it really does. Um so what did you think about episode 3? Do you want to jump into that one?
Sure, yeah.
Or did you have anything else from episode 2 you may or may not have enjoyed?
But not really. I did like Ellie. I liked that she was able to, I don't know, they're making her a fun character. They're giving
Yeah.
her extra personality and stuff, so that's it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. She seems like, which I guess, I mean, it makes sense if you're in this type of world, but she seems like a someone who's grown up as a hard ass.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's funny the interplay around guns with her. She's like, "I want a gun. Give me a gun." And I just keep thinking they're like, "No, no guns." And I just keep thinking she's gonna save him with a gun at some point.
Right. And be like, where did you get this gun from?
Right. Well, like the reaction would be so different that you're like, "Well, why aren't you being grateful for saving me?
Right.
Like, where'd you get the gun?"
Oh man.
Um,
No, she's a good
yeah.
character
So
though.
she's been pretty interesting. Yeah, they've done a good job. Yeah. So episode three.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. So it starts, Joel is just hating life, of course,
Right.
as well he should be. Good for him for mourning, like I don't know, not being so hardened that he just doesn't care what happened to her.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. He's not just brushing it aside.
Yeah, he's just struggling to cope. And I mean that's part of what makes this show more than just a zombie show. It's very human, like
Right.
it's very character driven.
Well, and like that's the thing. So when you look at it from his perspective, like he had his daughter die basically in his arms.
Hmm.
His brother is God knows where that he's trying to find. And now this woman that he's been, you know, in a relationship with, for lack of a better term, for the last at least 13 years, which is a really long
Hmm.
time.
It is.
Um,
I know that's how long I've been married, It's
right.
like,
So like that's a long time. Uh,
yeah,
it's just gone.
yeah. She's just gone, and yeah, it's How do you cope with that?
And then also, I feel like maybe I'm just projecting a little bit, but you could see it at the end of the second episode when you learn that Tess is infected and stuff, and she's telling Joel like you've got to get her to the Fireflies. Like she's so important. Look at her arm. Look at this, and you could just see like the weight that she was kind of putting that on, and I feel like Joel is now carrying that with him as well because of
Yeah.
her.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing his best here. I think it's funny. I mean, it's so Mandalorian too. Like he's got his, foundling, he's young, like his little partner he's got to protect now, a little kid,
Yep. It is very
you know.
Mandalorian, you're right.
There's actually a really funny scene at the very end of the episode 3 where I it has to be a nod to Mandalorian. Actually, it just has to be, where she's never been in a vehicle before, so we see, but he like buckles her in,
Yeah.
and then she's like, it's like a spaceship, and she's like pushing all the buttons. And I was just kept expecting him to like get a little like knob and hand it to her to play with, you know.
Yeah. Yep. Just be like,
Like
please
it
stop pushing the buttons.
seriously, it was just so like, yeah, it really felt like it was just a real brief nod to Mandalorian. And if people haven't seen Mandalorian, like they didn't feel like they missed out on anything really.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't notice it. uh yeah, it's just funny though, because it's like, all right, maybe he's being typecast. Maybe that's the only thing we'll ever see
Oh
Pedro
man.
Pascal do, is be the chaperone for some
Child.
kid that isn't his own. Yep.
Oh man. That's a good catch though.
It's fun.
Um,
Yeah. What did you think of this episode? Because it's deviates pretty hard well, they even said it in the thing afterward, like it deviates from the game.
yeah.
And like we're not even we really don't get to see Joel too much in this one, in fact.
Mm-hmm. So, Bill and Frank are characters in the game. You just don't see any of this. Like this was a whole backstory that was created.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I liked it. Like I thought it was really well done. Man, I like. First of all, it's just so strange to see Nick Offerman in this role because it's not his stereotypical like type of role to be in. Um,
Well, yeah, like I think of him as the the boss in Park
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Where he's I don't know. He's
Curmudgeon-y.
Yeah, I mean, he in some ways he's very similar to
Mm-hmm.
this actually, but at the same time, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It was like, especially like in the more intimate moments with his partner,
Mm-hmm.
like it was like this level of vulnerability that Ron Swanson really struggles to, would struggle to have.
Yeah.
So
It was so well done though. Like I thought he did really well with it. Um but I also liked seeing like this whole backstory of like how the survivalist managed for years, and then eventually you have Frank show up, and obviously eventually this friendship gets started with Joel and Tess, and just seeing everything build, but also seeing like time pass through those 20 years of this like
mhm.
virus spreading or whatever you want to call it, fungus. um
Yeah.
it was an interesting way to tell it because you never leave that area. Like you're always in that house slash gated community that
Right.
he's essentially
Hmm.
set up for himself.
Yeah, I like, so all the makeup that they have to do for, all like the passing of years
Yeah.
is really just I mean, it's just like they have to they age the Mandalorian, they age they or the Mandalorian, they age, sorry.
Joel.
They age Joel. Like they're aging all the people, and like you get to see Tess when she's younger this
Mm-hmm.
time. And all of them are just getting older, and it just makes me feel like I'm getting old. I don't know.
I mean,
It's just that's what I keep thinking. And then yeah, like I just like randomly looked over and saw like a wedding picture of me, like when I'm like, I'm like, I look so different,
mm-hmm.
13 years ago. It's just the passing of years is really they've done a good job of really showing us that.
Yeah, they did. Um, I really liked seeing though, like how they sort of had their own little bubble sort of created. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's good because you see everything kind of how you got from where it was to where they are now, where Joel is now, which is, outside this gate with Ellie, because he knows that he can get supplies here. It's a safe spot. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he knows all of these things, doesn't know that they are gone, but
Right. Well, it was real sad. Like I was wondering if they were going to like show up right after they took the pills or something like that.
right,
It'd be like this really tense, like we just like basically killed ourselves. We're gonna go die now.
right. See you later
Or what?
or not.
Yeah. Yeah, it was I thought maybe that would be what they did, and obviously that they didn't. Yeah, it was very interesting. I thought it was so he meets Frank eventually, of course,
Hmm.
but it's been like 4 years, and he's like probably hasn't talked to anyone since then, or at least not that
Right,
many people. And I found myself wondering, because I tend to be pretty introverted. I was like, I wonder how I would do, how I would hold up for 4 years without really talking to people.
right. Just being on your own by yourself all the time.
Right. Which I mean, I do really enjoy hanging out with people. I mean, I do the podcast. I have 3 podcasts. I have a YouTube channel. I do live streams. Like, I like the interaction. It just tires me out. I don't recharge from it.
Right.
So I think I would miss people too much, frankly. I think it would still be really difficult for me.
Yeah, I think it would be. It makes you wonder, like, would you kind of mentally crack in a way, you know?
Right. I mean, I wouldn't, but yeah, I could see why you would question that for yourself.
But I'm just curious, like if it would.
Oh no,
I don't
you're
know.
you're right though. I'm being facetious there for sure. I think yeah, like what would it do to me mentally? Like what if that was just you had to, He was in a situation,
Hmm.
and it's interesting because that saved his life because they showed what happened to the rest of the people
Right.
in that town. Like they just got gunned down by the awful government people.
Hmm. So
So,
totally saved them. But
yeah.
would I'm curious more of the sense of like, would you eventually get to the point where you might not make the best decision because you're not thinking as clearly because you're a little bit, you know, I don't want to say like crazy, but I feel like
Like
eventually,
crazy.
like if you only have yourself, you're going to eventually start, I don't know, not making rash decisions or anything like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably
I
yeah,
I
it,
think that
it probably would.
that Bill like I don't want to say thrives in that kind of area, but he seems to be the type of person who can handle it very well.
Yeah, like it just seems like, well, he's already just like a little bit unstable anyways,
Right.
right? So it's not that much of a stretch to think, like, oh, well, he's kind of built for this. I mean, when COVID happened,
Hmm.
and we all had all of our we had to be quarantined and we didn't see as many people. Like I really did love that. Like it was one of my favorite times. That not like loved it that we had to go through it as a group or whatever. I just I found myself I was like, I've been training for this my whole life. Like
Right.
I don't really want to deal with people anyway, so cool. Like thank you for giving me an excuse not to. And you know, what would that do though? Like eventually I wouldn't like it as much. Like I still had contact with people. We live in the day and age where you can actually do that. Like what
Mm-hmm.
would it be like? I don't know.
Well, and I guess that's why like it kind of ended up working out in their favor, where eventually you meet Joel and Tess, so you get a little bit of that kind
Right.
of old socialization that you may or may not have been used to from before all of this started.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you a bit of normalcy, and then you can continue on with your isoliza- isolation.
Isolation.
That's the one. I can't talk today.
It's all good.
um, but yeah, no, I thought it was great. I had no complaints about this episode.
Yeah, I mean, it felt a little fillery, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't really necessarily mind it. As long as it's well done, I don't find myself caring much about if it's a filler episode or not. Um, I thought it was an interesting thing too. Like, I you know, it's an interesting thing. Like, okay, so like I'll sign up to watch a zombie apocalypse movie. I don't know that I would have signed up to watch a just like love story,
Right.
really. Like if all the episodes were like this, would I like them as much? I don't know. Probably not. I
It's
mean, I did
interesting.
like this episode, but like if it just became like this story of, like let's talk about the love stories that this zombie apocalypse has, you know, created,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't I'd be like, I guess not. I don't know.
That's fair. Um, it's interesting because I thought it did a really good job of highlighting all these different parts of humanity. Like you have this like love story, you have this vulnerability, you've got the socialization, um, with Joel and Tess, and like, you know,
Sure.
quote unquote making new friends, and like you have all of these factors, and then like at the end, it's very obvious that you have this, you know, loner guy, for lack of a better term, or to classify him as, who ends up having this relationship, and it's really nice just to like see his vulnerability and him open up, but then you can tell he's obviously not a trusting person for
Mhm.
very good reasons, considering everyone is probably psycho in this at this point, and you're having to stay alive. He's a survivalist. But then at the end, like you can tell from his letter that he trusted Joel. Like he that was it. Like they made their choice, and he knew that Joel would and Tess would. I mean, not Tess, which was really sad, but they
It
would
was really
find him,
sad. Hmm.
and that was where he was gonna put all of his trust. I mean, he obviously trusted him enough to the point that Joel knew the gate code, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I thought his comment was funny. He's like, to Joel or whoever this is, probably Joel though, because if you're not Joel, then Mike Vince would have just killed you by now. He.
yeah, which I thought was very like it seemed in character.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was good. Yeah, so I don't mean to say that it was a very strong episode. It was great. And it moved the storyline along a little bit. And that's fine. It was good. I guess all I'm saying is, okay, so they underlined it, they underscored it,
Mm-hmm.
and it like you don't want to overdo it. you don't want to just be like, all right, and this next stage along the way is Joel's gonna go meet some other friends who are also lovers, and this is their tragic
Right.
story. Like it would get old pretty quick. In this, like, I want to see them go. I want to see them go to Wyoming. I want to see their adventures, and
Mm-hmm.
I want to see what else it's done to society. Like now we've seen what it's done to like this. I thought it was interesting. They only got raided once, maybe more than that, but like they were largely just left alone for 20 years.
Yeah. Uh,
Um, you know,
and
so
also,
we needed to see that. Oh, go ahead.
well, no, that's exactly it. You needed to see that, and I also think you needed to see it because you need to know as a viewer, because as somebody who's played the game, you know about Bill and Frank. You I mean, you don't know their backstory, but you know that they exist and like whatever. But as a viewer, you need to know why Joel knows to go there, why Joel knows he can get stuff there. Um,
I mean, you could really sum that up
totally,
in like 5 minutes or less if you wanted to. Like
totally.
that.
But I
This
think,
is an hour and 20 minute episode or something, but
but I also think it adds into like now you're adding on to Joel. So you've got he loses his daughter, his brother is who knows where, Tess just died, and now like this is the next person that I would quantify as, for Joel as a big loss in terms of his friends.
no, I mean, if you really like, I was talking about it and thinking about like, so this is we've lost 4/6 of the main characters so far.
Yeah.
Like everyone's dying. Everyone's dying. Like the his daughter dead.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Tess is gone, and the two Bill and Frank are both gone.
Mm-hmm.
I keep wanting to call them Bill and Ted, frankly. Frankly.
Ah,
But like everyone's dead so far. Like it's just been Mandalorian and Grogu.
and Grogu. Um, but I think it like adds to the weight for Joel and like adds to his
Hmm.
character and I think how they're gonna show him progressing as this season goes on.
Yeah, I mean this is gonna forge him, hopefully. Hopefully he's going to be able to overcome this. It's rough, man. I hate the thought of that. Like that. It's a lot of rough stuff to happen to one person.
Yeah.
Frankly, a lot of people to lose. Though maybe that's going to open things up for him to actually be able to embrace his, embrace it, like kind of being a surrogate father to, you know,
Right.
Ellie. Like instead of just being like, you know what, someone else can do that. I don't want to get close. Like he'll be at this point of like, well, who else is there in his life?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Yeah, if you don't have her, then who and what do you have?
Mm-hmm. So, but I don't think that they will go this route with other episodes. Like I think we're gonna get what you want. I think we're gonna continue on watching them go across to wherever the fireflies are and get
Uh,
Ellie.
well, don't get me wrong. I did think this episode was lovely.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I have no issues with this one episode. And they can have more elements of it. I thought like the them being gay and everything was I didn't have an issue with that at
Mm-hmm.
all. Which given my background and everything, and the road I've traveled, I was curious to see what my reaction would be,
Mm-hmm.
frankly. So it was fine. I thought, yeah, it was fine. It was just a nice little snapshot into it, and I think I've thought more about this episode than I've thought about the other two,
Yeah, I
frankly.
agree with you. I have as well.
And yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like, how do you decide? Like, all right, guys, we're gonna just like not really tell. We're gonna take a little pass on telling the Joel thing. Like we'll put like 10 minutes of him
Mm-hmm.
and Ellie, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest is going to be this couple who, like is in a way they're just kind of extraneous, like that they weren't necessary, absolutely necessary. It does paint a bigger picture. Now I want to see the meat of the story,
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, let's get to the meat. We're good though.
Which I think is totally fair. And I mean, there's what, 9 episodes, right? I think we said it was 9 or 10. I think it's
Yeah,
9.
yep. So we're 1/3 done with this season.
Yeah. So
Wow.
there's man, that's nuts. That's nuts to think of, but um I think there's going to be plenty of meat coming up.
um, I was gonna make an inappropriate comment, but seemed like there was plenty of that
uh,
in this episode too. So, uh, anyways, the um, I don't know. I always want to ask you what you think is gonna happen, and I guess here's what I'll ask you then,
mhm.
because you can't necessarily make specific predictions because you probably have a lot of knowledge that I would consider to be a spoiler.
Right.
And you're
Absolutely.
and I know that you're committed not to not give spoilers, but what I want to what I'll ask is, do you think that the end of this season
Mhm.
and like the trajectory of this story, do you think it's going to stay on track with the game for the most part? Like, do you think that there'll
Mm.
be some deviations, or do you think at some point we'll just totally branch off in some wild direction? Because they kind of did that in this episode, though they could easily get
Right.
back on track from here. Do you think it's going to stay on track, stay on target?
Um well, like the only branch off really was the backstory,
I
if
mean,
I'm remembering
it's
right.
like a full hour
Uh,
of branching
yeah.
off,
Yeah.
you know. That's all I'm saying. Like, but they got back. Like, it seems to me like they could stay there now. They could stay on target. They have
Mhm.
this one little deviation, and then easily the rest of the six mostly staying
Um I think
with
they
the
will.
storyline.
I think they will. I'm curious. I'm actually more curious where season 1 will end, if it will end at the end of the first game. Um or if they're going to end it like earlier, or what the deal is, because
Yeah,
it
valid.
obviously, like when they started doing um like interviews and promotional stuff for the show, they being Pedro Pascal and uh,
Hmm.
Bella Ramsey, I think is her name. Uh, they didn't know if it was going to get renewed for season 2. And they were talking as if it was filmed in a way that it didn't necessarily need to be renewed.
Right, like
Uh,
there would be some kind of conclusion.
yeah, which makes me think that they're going to
Hmm.
go straight to the end of the game. Um,
Hmm. Okay.
in which case, I feel like you can't deviate too much because there's still a lot to go.
Also, like I don't know. So the cynical part of me, the skeptical part,
Hmm.
makes me wonder if this episode was a way to kind of force their hand, like force, like they're like, hey, like there's going to be a lot of like discussion about this episode specifically because like the gay relationship that they had
Hmm.
is like that's outside of what a lot of people who watch zombie shows are actually going to be like. If you sign up to watch a zombie show, the majority of people who sign up for that aren't the people who are going to be like, yeah, like let's also watch a lot of like let's watch stuff that promotes gay rights or whatever.
Hmm.
Like it's a different topic, and not that they're necessarily unsupportive of it, but that's a totally different thing. And trying to blend the two, like they're going to get a lot of attention, like a
Right.
lot of attention, and they're going to get a lot of support, frankly, if they do it well, which they did.
Hmm.
They're going to get a lot of support from a lot of different corners, and in a way it's like, well, hey, I don't know, like, and then right on the heels of this being released, like, hey, we've been renewed for season two. Like
Right.
it just seemed like, oh, look at all this attention we're getting. Of course, we're going to do season two, even though they probably had already made the decision before this episode aired. It just
Mm,
made me think that maybe this episode, in some ways, wasn't completely like they were like, oh man, here's a way we could get more attention.
right. I'm trying to remember what day it was. I think it was like the day before this episode aired that they got renewed, or 2 days before.
Mm.
Something like that. But also, like, there are screener copies of episodes that go out. Like, people that post reviews get to watch the episode a couple days beforehand. Like, there. It's not like the episode wouldn't have been seen already when the renewal news came.
Well, it made it what made me think of it, like, especially, I mean, it makes even more sense if you think of it in terms of that, like, of the cynical point of view of you know they wanted to be like, all right, no, they wanted to avoid the question of like, oh hey, like this is something that the gay community is really behind, but we're gonna cancel it. That they don't,
Mm,
maybe we'll still cancel it. Like they want to be like, no, 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 like we love this show, we love like look at how much we're gonna have another season.
right,
um so that it avoided the discussion of maybe they'll still cancel it, you know
right.
which who knows. I don't know that we need to speculate more. I just, it was a thought I had.
Hmm.
And there's going to be, I'm sure there already are, I just haven't looked at all at any of the, like, I don't I don't really necessarily want to. I'd be interested on some levels to see what some of the reviews were of it, though.
Right.
You know,
Of this
people,
episode specifically.
yeah, and like I'm sure that there are some conservative groups who are just totally outraged by it.
Oh, guaranteed.
Like almost by definition. So I don't know. I'm not saying I'm outraged. I'm not. It was a good episode.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I have no complaints, so I am very excited to see the next one.
Yeah. Well, I like that it's not like there's some scary parts, but there's no, it hasn't made me jump yet.
No, it's definitely felt like very tense. Like uh when they were in that like old store area or wherever when Joel was looking for his supplies and Ellie, I think it was,
Oh yeah.
and she
As she
like,
goes downstairs.
yeah, and like I fully had to pause it when she was like hanging because I was like, okay, like this is really tense. I know there's gonna be something down there. This is, and I figured that they wouldn't necessarily make me jump, which they've done a very good job of having the sound start before the scene changes, like before the camera angle changes. So it's been not a jump scare every single time, which is nice. But it's still
Yeah.
tense.
Well, to me, that's what I want anyways. I want that tension. I mean,
Hmm.
that's what they did well in Cassian, I feel like, was it just made it so tense all the time. Like I like that. I'm good with it. I don't want to be startled.
Right.
I just don't. Like knock that crap off, please.
Right. Exactly. So if they keep that up, I will be very happy.
Yeah. It does just make it look like they're trying to play for, I don't know. They're trying to get a bigger audience.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's fine. They're doing a good job with it. I don't think it's making the show worse. I actually think it's making it stronger.
I mean, for me it's stronger because I don't know if I'd watch it if it was just if the first episode had like three or four jump scares. I think like I'd watch that to the conclusion, and then I'd probably just be like, you know what, I didn't care about the game. I don't need to watch the show.
Right. Well, and I think that goes back to also what you were saying earlier about how it's not just a copy of The Walking Dead and it's a
Hmm.
stereotypical zombie show. And I think because they're choosing to go this way and avoid the jump scares, that adds to
Yeah.
it not being stereotypical.
Yeah, I am impressed by that. It's good. I don't want don't want that jump scare, obviously. So, yeah, they've done a good job, and yeah, like they needed to do something to make the show different,
Mm-hmm.
though. Honestly, and so character driven, I'm good with that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Um,
Need to get Rick Grimes in on it now.
uh, is there anything that you can think of that you would want to see in the next couple episodes? Or are you
Oh,
just
that's a
like,
good question. So I grew up in Wyoming.
right?
Um, all the way through high school, and I went to college there. That's where I got my master's degree. So, we have family in Wyoming still. I go to Wyoming at least 2 or 3 times a year. So it's still in a lot of ways home. And so I'm just interested, not they don't have to film it in Wyoming or anything, but I'm interested to see what their rendition of Wyoming is
Right.
gonna be.
What?
Like, and obviously it's gonna be a zombie apocalypse,
Mm-hmm.
level disaster of Wyoming. So obviously it won't be totally familiar, but you know, like, well, are they gonna like? I want to see what the mountains look like there and what the landscape is. It'll
Mm-hmm.
be so I don't know. That's not like I hope this thing happens. I just want to see what I'm curious to see. They're like, oh, Wyoming, we're gonna go to Wyoming. I'm like, no one wants to go to Wyoming.
I am curious actually when we get there what you will think because I'm pretty sure I don't know I haven't looked this up but I'm pretty sure the entire season was shot in Calgary.
Oh.
So I'm curious
Hmm.
if you think it will be a fitting backdrop or not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing it'll be fine. I'm
Yeah.
I'm curious though, like the type of sagebrush and stuff. Like we always used to say that Wyoming is it's like an acquired taste for it's lovely, but you have to earn it, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Like people just driving through would probably just be like, what a dreary, awful place. I don't want to live here.
Right.
I don't blame them. But yeah, there's a certain desolate beauty to Wyoming that I don't know. I hope they do it justice.
Mm-hmm.
But if they don't, it's not going to ruin it for me. I'm just curious to see where they go with it. So that's all.
That's fair. I think that's valid.
Yeah, yeah. And if I hate it, then it's because it was in Calgary. No.
Of course. No, but I'm curious because so they had that scene I can't remember where if it was this episode or episode 2 but it showed it like the location came up on the screen. It was like 10 miles outside of Boston or
Hmm?
something like that. And a lot of people were kind of like ragging on it online because it has this like mountain scenery backdrop, and it looks
Oh, the
nothing like what the scenery around Boston would look like. Um,
yeah. Okay.
so like I could see I'm curious if you would if it would bother you or not because like to me it doesn't bug me. I don't care if it matches or not.
Yeah. I don't think I care.
Yeah,
Not that much.
fair.
I'm just always curious, like if there's one place in my you know that I would be able to actually tell. Like they're like, hey, this doesn't look like Boston area. I'm like, I don't care. This looks like Boston to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair.
I don't know what Boston looks like. Like, it doesn't look like we're like on some alien planet with like mushroom trees and stuff. So we're good.
Yeah, everything's fine.
Yeah. Situation normal.
Hmm.
So yeah. Anything else you want to talk about the show?
Um, I don't think so. I think we got a pretty good feel. Oh, the only other thing I was going to point out to you, because you haven't played the game, so you wouldn't have caught this, but at the end of this episode, you see like Ellie and Joel going off in the car, truck, whatever. And the
Hmm.
camera's like pulling back out from the window, right? They're in Bill and Frank's bedroom.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Which was also just really heartbreaking, by the way. But the reason why it's cool is because the menu screen, like the start menu screen for the game, is a window.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like a nod to the game,
Hmm.
but also like brings you back into Bill and Frank for a little bit at the very end.
Yeah. I like that they showed us Tess in this, like just give us a little
Yeah.
more. Because I was sad that when she was gone,
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, yeah, it was all right, that's good. That is good context. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
But no, that I think that's it. I think this was a really strong episode, so I'm really excited to see the next one. I think they're doing a great job with the show so far.
Yeah, the preview looked a lot more tense. Looked like more action for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well, we could call it good here, I guess. I suppose.
Yeah, so I guess we'll be back next week,
Yeah.
assuming I haven't. If I'm still sick next week, just you know, I don't know. I'd make a bombing joke, but that probably sounds bad.
That probably does. Yeah, don't make a bombing joke. What the hell?
Okay, I'm good then. We'll call it good.
Yeah. Yeah. See you next week, guys.